Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me and my very special guest. She is a chart-topping singer, songwriter, recording artist, and actress. You know her from such shows as Hairspray, Wicked, and Waitress. She is also one of Broadway world's favorites. Please say hello to my friend, Shoshana Bean.
You sweet man. Hi.
How are you? First off, how are you and where are you?
I am wonderful. I'm in Portland, Oregon at my mother's house with her book collection, which I just made her purge like half of. I'm doing a very strict purging sergeant here. You know, when you stay with your parents for extended periods of time, you point out all their flaws, criticize, try to make their life better. So we're in the process of a major purge.
See, I've been doing the same thing here. When this whole pandemic started, I was like, well, I'm going to clean nonstop. So, I would lemon my floors. I would do all my mirrors. I mean, I would just like get into this daily routine of, all right, I'm going to clean again. I'm going to clean again.
You strike me as like a very clean person anyway. So now it's starting to sound like a little OCD. You're scaring me, bitch.
Well, listen, we are now in our 139th day of quarantine.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Well, I mean, the weird thing about this is sometimes it feels like yesterday, sometimes it feels like last week, and sometimes it feels like last year. How are you dealing and handling this pandemic, Shoshana?
Oh gosh. Well, each day is different. But I think that the thing that has kept me sane and happy and thriving, I guess, is just trying to stay really present and not think too far ahead, not start to worry about what the future may look like. I know a lot of people are projecting what that might be, and I can't really engage. It just kind of sends me into a tailspin. So just staying really super present and making sure that whatever I'm choosing every day, whether it's to work or to rest or to purge or to clean or to somehow find a way to be social, that I'm just choosing by the moment and in the day what makes me happy and what I just feel like choosing what's going to keep me happy has been the thing keeping me present. And it's been an interesting time. It's been restful and it's been wildly productive and inspiring and creative, and I think we've all found ways to connect and create that I just never would have thought to do it this way otherwise. So I think there have been some beautiful benefits, and those are the things I am choosing to focus on.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that because you've used your voice and your talents so beautifully to help raise money during this pandemic. And the first one I want to talk about is you sing the Andrew Lloyd Webber Love Trio with your dear friends, Kat McPhee and the wonderful Megan Hilty. I mean, you did this for AIDS Walk NYC, donated all the money to GMHC. What did that mean to you, and what was it like doing that?
Well, I mean, the sad part is we don't actually get to engage when we're doing it. So like a dream trio. I think the most communication we had about it was like, what are you wearing? What's your background? Like, we don't actually get to work with each other when we do it, which is also the amazing thing. Like, it came together so beautifully, but of course they're obviously amazing professionals with insane instruments and gifts. So it wasn't really a surprise, but we didn't, I think the end product is very exciting, and I know that it's a beloved trio because of the three women, who originally did it. So it was an honor to reinvent or recreate the trio, and with two women who I love and respect so much. And we all have such a weird little web woven from the things we've worked on together and separately, the things that we've shared. So there's been people I've gotten to collaborate with that we never would have had the time or the reason to do so. So it's been really cool.
This is the new now because Megan Hilty was here last week and we had the best time. We talked about you and just everything and doing this. And she was like, oh, I hope I'm not singing my part too loud. I don't want to do this. This is a new thing now, how you're all putting these like music videos together and recording.
I know it's again, it's an amazing skill that we've all now acquired. And also I have to be honest, like, when we do stuff like for a benefit or whatever else, I feel like life is so full and busy. I learn the song and then I perform it. I never take the time to dive in the way that I have been able to with this. I'm going to tell you, Rich, every time I make a video,
Yeah.
I've probably recorded 60 plus times. Like, I'm such a sick perfectionist, and it's given me this gift of like really spending time with music in a way that I wouldn't. So I'm messing with my technique in ways and my style. And then, and obviously the interpretation of the lyric and how I'm communicating it. But it's been I've been my own masterclass. I've been like, because you can record it and watch it back. And that's not something we do when we're preparing to perform one song at a benefit. You know what I mean? We're looking forward to being social with everybody. I do my song and then go hang out backstage. But like now I just have had more time to really go a little deeper. So that's been cool.
So, everybody I've spoken to has either turned like their shoe closet or just a regular closet into a recording studio or like a hallway, and they tell their husbands or boyfriends or whatever, saying, stay out of this area right now because I've got to record this thing.
Yeah.
I know you're at your parents' house. Have you set up a mini recording studio there? Like, what's happening there?
Yes, my car. My car is recording. Or I say, like, guys, from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock today, I have these videos to bang through. You have to be quiet. They don't understand what that means. I'm like, well, now I'm starting that takeover because you coughed. Oh, I coughed. Yes, you coughed. Yes. So I go to my car. I drove around the city the other night recording because I just, can't get peace and quiet here at my house.
Give them a book. Give them one of their books.
There's a lot to do here. Keep purging. Keep purging.
I love everybody who's like, I want to watch you record this. And then, like you say, someone coughs or a phone rings or something as you're hitting your like final note. You're just about done with your video. And it's like, Mom, I told you not to like eat an ice cube or drink or let the phone ring.
Don't breathe. Just don't breathe. And there's 3 dogs in the house. So someone's always barking. It's just, it's been challenging.
Well, it's the new now, just so this is what it is.
It is. Yeah.
I love it. I love it to use your car. You also had Shoshana Bean and Friends, an evening of Broadway, a virtual gala on July 13th. Now, you had all your fellow Elphabas with you. What was this gala for?
Well, every year for the past 2 years, and this year would have been the third, I have produced a concert at my alma mater, my high school here in Beaverton. To raise money for the performing arts. Our district is not unlike the rest of the districts in the country that are being just, their performing arts budgets or any arts budgets are being just destroyed. So I am living proof, and I know so many other people and children whose lives were altered in a positive way by having arts. Not even just the people who go into it as a profession, but like just the skills and the character traits, and it infuses people's lives with so many positive and amazing things. So I think it's imperative the arts stay alive. So this was my small way of like, handling things in my own backyard. So I do this event to raise money for the Performing Arts Department. And this year, obviously, we had to cancel it. And it wasn't until, after it was canceled and I had done a couple of these events, these virtual events, and I'm like, I know how to do this now. I know how to edit. I have enough people. I know how to do this. I think we can make it work, because more than anything, like these poor kids, especially the seniors, they've been, stripped of so many things this year. And I was like, if I can just be one less thing that they're losing, I know it'll be different, and we don't have the live engagement, which is the most fun part. But in a lot of ways, I think this was even more special for them. I mean, they got exposure in a way that they wouldn't have with just the 600 seat auditorium. And one of the girls even who was in the show got a call from, not through me, a call from the casting directors for Dear Evan Hansen and asked her to submit an audition. So like, again, I just keep looking for the beautiful gifts and miracles within this, otherwise kind of dark time. So I'm really, really glad I did. I learned a lot. I think it was in ways more impactful for the kids because I had one-on-one coachings with them on Skype. That's not something I would have been able to do in person. So it just turned into a cool thing. And I don't know why I got the idea to do the Alphabet thing. I was surprised no one, with all the things that have been happening and the medleys and the group numbers and the original cast, I was like, no one's done anything Wicked wise. Like, okay, I guess, it'd be kind of cool if we did that. And the girls were all so generous and willing, and it is pretty exciting.
I think it's great because, Broadway World had a next on stage contest that we did for high school kids and for college. And I mean, these singers are
Yeah.
so talented, and this is our future. And I know a lot of people around the world watch this contest.
Yeah.
There's thousands and thousands of people, and casting directors were watching too. And the winners are each going to record a single at Broadway Records. I mean, it's an amazing thing, but this is our future. And with everything going on with the government nowadays, I mean, the people who are not been given any money are the arts. I mean, it's the most bizarre thing. And I'm glad that you did this benefit and made people aware
Oh
that
my
please
gosh.
help the arts, especially to high schools and colleges, and, to look out for them. I think you froze. I
I
think
did, but I heard everything you said. I heard
I love it.
everything you said. I think it's amazing, and I'm shocked. I even just again my own little backyard with the Beaverton
Yeah.
event. I was like, I did not sing like that in high school. I did not sing music from Into the Woods. I did not belt past a seat. Like I did not sing like these kids do. I think they have such a gift of having the internet and the accessibility to things and information that we just didn't. We had to go to the library and check out CDs.
I had vinyl, though. You had CDs. I checked out vinyl.
Oh, even better.
I want to go back to the beginning. So growing up, like, what were your earliest creative outlets, and how did you fall in love with the theater?
Dance was my first, but I think dance was just my first sort of channeled, where my mom put me in a dance class for all the energy. But I think the original sort of like basic instinct was to dress up, put on music, and perform, whatever that meant, before 3 years old. And then tap class was the first thing, which then parlayed into ballet and jazz. And then I think I was about 6 or 7 when she put me in, where she had me audition for a like performing troupe, kids performing troupe. And yeah, I think it just was always, it was just always in me. I don't think there was a moment where I'm like, oh, I love this, I'm bit by the bug. I just think it was just always there.
Yeah. Tell me about Capital Kids. Was that the summer camp you went to?
That was the kids performing troupe. Oh my God. Capital Kids was just, it was a performing troupe. It was like, it was a review, I guess. I remember one year we did a vaudeville review, and it was, just song after song after song. Some were standard, some were for musicals, and then of course we closed with That's What Friends Are For. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was any good, but I sure had fun, and I had a lot of energy, and I loved it. Yeah, Capital Kids was the beginning.
Yeah. Talk about the influence your grandmother had on you with music.
Oh, Richie, you did your research, honey.
Oh, I've known you forever, so I just figured. I'm always fascinated about the beginnings, because those are the seeds that are planted very early on
Yeah.
when someone takes you under their wing or presents you with something. So what influence did your grandma have on you?
She was a singer prior to having kids and getting married. She just was a music connoisseur and lover, and just like a massive record collection and cassette collection, and always with the jazz station on in the background. So a lot of jazz, a lot of blues in that household, and a lot of movie musicals. I feel like that's where Barbra Streisand came into my life. That's where Frank Sinatra came into my life at very early ages. Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan. So just an appreciation, and I think that the ability to listen to it, discuss it, constantly hear it, and absorb it. That was the foundation. You don't even know what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At what age did you realize you could sing? And what age did you realize you sang really well?
I don't know. I don't know that I'm there yet. I think I thought I was better than I was when I wasn't good, and then once maybe I got good, I'm gonna always be my worst critic. So I guess somewhere, I think I was really great. I thought I was really great when I got to college, but I got to college and you've got Christy Cates in your class, you've got Leslie Kritzer in your class, you've got Sarah Gettelfinger, I've got all these girls, and I'm like, I have a lot of learning to do. And so I think somewhere in college is when my work ethic and my commitment and my, my goal to be greater and greater all the time was really born. And yeah, it's always been born of being around people who are better than me. It's always been looking sideways and being inspired by what's going on around me, and just trying to be better and better. So I don't know. I think still working on it.
Was there a defining moment when you said to yourself, I have to be a performer and try to make a living at this?
Yeah, when I was in junior high, this girl Brooke and I were sitting listening to Mariah Carey's, I think it was her Emotions album, and we were listening and we were trying to hit the whistle tones and whatever else. And Brooke said something about like basically insinuating that she was going to, go be Mariah Carey for a living, like go be a pop singer. And I was like, it just blew my mind. I never had thought about it. I was always performing and knew I would, but I even thought actually like being on Broadway would be more, accessible. You can just decide to be a pop star. I didn't understand it. So I was like, well, again, I thought I was better than I was. So I'm like, well, if Brooke said then I'm doing it. So I think that was when I decided like, I'm going to continue to pursue music. And then when it was time to choose a college, my voice teacher was the one who was like, you can go to college for this and keep studying. You can go where Pam Myers went. I had worked with Pam Myers when I was 9. I moved and I was Louise in Sunday in the Park with George, and she had come in from New York and played Dot. And so she always was like on a pedestal for me, just a goddess of the highest. And I also met my voice teacher on this production. She played the nurse, and she said, there's this school in Cincinnati. Pam Myers went there. She's one of the first graduates. And I was like, whatever Pam Myers is doing that. So when I got in, there was my mom actually. I thought I was going to go to school for business and take over my dad's business. And my mom was like, are you sure you don't want to just like give it a shot? You can always double back, but like, don't you just want to see where this can go and what you can do? And I was like, oh, if it's an option, then cool. I don't really think you need an education to be on Broadway, but fine. So.
Yeah. I love that you gave a shout out to Pam Myers. Everybody loves Pam, just so you know. I'm a huge fan of hers.
How can you not be?
Yeah.
How can you be?
What got you to New York?
I mean, CCM. It just was kind of like that was the natural trajectory. You finish your 4 years, you go to New York, you do your showcase, you get your agent callbacks, then you go away for the summer to do your summer stock and get your equity card, and then you come back, you start pounding the pavement, and that is exactly what I did. It was pre-paved.
Yeah. Where did you get your equity card? What show?
St. Louis, me, Christy Cates and both went there for the summer. We did Meet Me in St. Louis, fittingly, and Annie.
Who did you play?
In Meet Me in St. Louis, I was in the ensemble, but I understudied Emily Lesser in as she played I forget the name of the character, but Judy Garland's role. And in Annie, Christy and I were both Boylan sisters. Yeah. Dreams come true at the Muni.
Exactly. Well, many people were supposed to make their Broadway debuts this spring, and then the pandemic hit. And I really hope when it all comes back, bigger and better than ever, they will. But Broadway debuts are really magical, and yours, of course, was in Hairspray. Now, I know the show had started out in Seattle, but there's nothing like Broadway and that opening night. How magical was that for you, and what do you remember?
Oh, it was crazy. I just remember being like, I'm Broadway. Hairspray. Jerry, bless his heart, gave us a tap number. And I just remember being like, I'm tapping on Broadway in Big Doll House. We literally did like a couple time steps, but still, I had tap shoes on a Broadway stage. I just remember the energy was insane. And it had a lot to live up to because it had to live up to the preview in Seattle, which was insane. It had to live up to our, what formerly known as Gypsy Runs. It had to live up to that, which was insane. I just remember an insane amount of energy, an insane amount of love, and an insane amount of like constantly pinching myself and looking around and being like, this is it. This is like, you're here. You're dancing. You're on Broadway. You just
Yeah.
opened in a Broadway, like continually having to remind myself of that. You know, our party was across the street at the Roseland Ballroom, formerly. It was a magical night. Both my parents were there. Christy Cates was also my date. She came that night. It was just magic. It was magic. That whole experience from top to bottom, though, like, I'm surprised I haven't cried yet. Every time I talk about Hairspray, I cry. It is like the best. You know, I wanted my Broadway debut to be so many other things. I wanted it to be Les Mis when I auditioned for that. I wanted it to be Mamma Mia when there were so many, Wild Party. There were so many things that I just really wrapped my heart around, that I was like, this is it. This is it. And it never was. And once it was Hairspray, like, it couldn't have been anything else. It had to be that, for all the things I learned, for, you know, learning from the top down, from those producers to Mark and Scott to Harvey as a leading lady, you know, all the things I learned, and Marissa, to understudying those roles. I mean, it was the most exquisite crash course in what it means to be in a broad show, a hit, in a family, what it means to be a lead, what it means to be part of a team. It was extraordinary.
Because, like you said, you understudied a lot of roles. You understudied Tracy and Velma and Prudy. Did you go on a lot?
All the time. Sometimes, I remember there was one week in particular where, I mean, like, and even in one day, like in a matinee and evening show, like, I was on for everything. And I was like, okay. And a lot of Velma, Prudy, and Tracy are all in similar like multiple numbers together. And so to be in the same number on an opposite side with different choreography, like, it was insane, but I did it. That's everyone should have to experience that kind of mental stimulation or challenge. It was awesome. That was the greatest.
You know, you were saying everybody, you dream about how your Broadway debuts are going to be. You thought it was going to be in something else. Everybody I've spoken to who has worked on Hairspray said that was the most magical time of working with everybody, doing that show. What a feel-good show. I mean, just from the second that downbeat hits, and all of a sudden it just starts with Tracy in the bed. I mean, what a fabulous feel-good musical. Favorite memories of doing that show for you, Shoshana, or what? You must have so many.
Oh, man. Yeah. Where do I begin? I think we had a really special, silly time in Seattle. We were a very young cast, so we had adventures. We had a great time in Seattle, and I think that's where we really gelled as a family. Beyond that, I mean, the memories would have to span, 18 plus years, because, as we always say about Hairspray, here it is. We in the family always say, like, it's the gift that keeps giving. We just never really have stopped being there for one another, making things together. From the musical to then the movie to then the live, like, we're all always involved. These are the people that are literally my family. I mean, we're all still in contact. Favorite memories. Oh, we just were so silly. Yeah. We were so silly and young and inappropriate. But we also, like, you said, what a feel good show. We came in at a time when the city needed us. We came in right after 9/11, a year after 9/11. And I just think people were just starting to kind of, like, come out of the heaviness and the fear and the darkness, and they deserved to have a celebration. They deserved to have a bright, silly, beautiful 2 hours in the theater. And they were waiting for us. They were ready for us. When we came back to the city, we were already being celebrated. We hadn't even opened yet, and that was a beautiful feeling.
We so need that now. I wish Hairspray.
And be so proud of that.
I so wish Hairspray would come back. Boy, we're in dark times now. Boy, do we need that now to come back.
Yeah, we'll have other things. I saw Groundhog Day. I'm sorry, not Groundhog Day. Jesus. I saw Doubtfire in Seattle over Christmas. And at the Fifth Ave where we started Hairspray and where I met, I met my best friend Jen Gambatis on Hairspray, and she is starring in Miss Doubtfire. It is it's such a beautiful ride. It's just it's a glorious show, and that, I think the biggest heartbreaker of all this, the part that just like lands so hard for me about where we're at is just when I think about the fact that Broadway's dark and that it's been dark for as long as it has and will continue to be dark. It's just like, it feels like the world is upside down when you tell me that those theaters are just sitting there. The lights are just, I haven't been in the city since this happened. So it just doesn't make sense to me. And I look forward to the day when things like Doubtfire can come back and people can experience that.
Beautifully put. You then joined the company of the worldwide phenomenon known as Wicked. You were the standby for Idina Menzel and Elphaba. Now, your first performance came out of nowhere. I'm sure you dreamed it was going to be a totally different way you were going to do your first performance in Wicked. Tell our audience how you went on that first time as Elphaba.
Meaning the first time as when it was supposed to be me taking over, or first time as a standby? Yeah. Okay, because I don't remember my first time as a standby. First time taking over, it happened, I guess, a day and a half early or 2 days early. So it was her final weekend, and it's a terribly tragic, awful story. But there was a misfire with the melting hole, the hole in the stage for her melting. And it was open when she stepped back and she fell through, and it was a horrible injury. And so she couldn't finish her last 2 shows. And so, yeah, I had to step in, but I still considered it like, I'm not stepping in to take over. I'm still being the standby. Like, I'm still doing my job as the standby, and it was a very strange, thing to, people were scared and they didn't get to say goodbye to her. It was meant to be a very different weekend. People were flying in from all over the world to see this. And I felt bad to be the one that they had to experience. I literally thought people could, ask for refunds and throw tomatoes, but it ended up being like such a beautifully loving, supportive audience. Again, just a testament to like, what theater does and our community and our world of theater, that people showed up just like supporting me, So again, I considered that the end of my job as a standby. And then I considered Tuesday my opening night as in the role. I did not consider it my role until it was actually, you know what I mean?
So what was that first Tuesday like for you when you were like, you're Broadway's new Elphaba? I mean, it's got to be so surreal, because when Wicked first opened, it was Idina and Kristen. And I mean, everybody, it was like this phenomenon that people wanted to go and see this. And then you were going to be the next one stepping into that incredible role. What that Tuesday night meant to you?
It's very foggy. But I remember that, of course, it was, I was surrounded by people who I love. Family and friends who were there to support. I do remember, I just feel like the whole thing, first of all, it was a phenomenon, but it wasn't what it is now. It was just like YouTube was just starting, like that sort of rabid spread of information and hits was just starting. And also like, you have to take into account that like I had never had my name above the title. I had never carried a show. Like, it was such a massive jump from ensemble to, you know what I mean? And it was Idina freaking Menzel. So I think that there was a massive part of me that downplayed the entire thing. I'm just the replacement. I'm not Idina. Like, I think it was too massive for me to really, like, looking back, I don't know that I thought I deserved it. I don't know that I felt like I was good enough. I don't know. I just think that, I just kind of downplayed it. I do remember it being something I wanted. So the achievement of it felt very rewarding. I was very proud. I was very excited, but also insecure part of me that was like, just make it smaller. Cause you don't make it a big deal. Cause you don't really deserve to be here. It's sad, but, in being reflective, I'm always like, if I could go back, I would just, but it's taught me, like now, like when I went into Waitress, I was like, do not make the same mistake from, 15 years ago. Be here, be present, enjoy these people, be grateful for this experience. Like, it's not gonna, you never know. I'll never be able to guarantee if I'm ever going to get to be in a show again. You just don't know. So, yeah, I was lucky that I got to come back.
Well, I saw you numerous times on Broadway in Wicked. I saw you the end of your third week. You were sensational the first time I saw you. So whatever was going on in your head with those voices, let that go. You were phenomenal. I caught you a lot of times in that show on Broadway,
Bless you.
just so you know. And you were great. I said to you that I had Megan Hilty here last week. We had such a great time reminiscing about Wicked and you and everything else. And we talked about that fabulous performance when a major mishap happened with you, and it was with Megan. Would you please tell our audience what happened? I think you froze again. You back?
You want me to tell your audience what happened?
Yes.
Are we talking about the pit?
Yes, we're talking about the pit. That's what we're calling this.
Oh, you guys. Well, stage is raked at the Wicked, at the Gershwin, which means it's higher in the back and lower in the front. The illusion of a larger stage from the audience. And I just ran out with a little too much momentum one night and ran myself straight into the pit. The pit has a net to catch props and things like that to protect the orchestra members. And gratefully, it managed to catch me and hold me. It was not meant to hold that much weight. It's literally meant to catch a book, a bag, like whatever. And I managed to recover really quickly. And Megan sort of like knelt down in her gown. Her instincts, she was right on it, extended her hand, and I just sort of like climbed back up on stage. It was clumsy and embarrassing. However, in the audience that night was Leslie Odom Jr. and Griffin Matthews, who came backstage. She didn't tell you that part. They came backstage and they were like, that entrance was the most epic thing I've ever seen. That is like so brilliant. And Megan was like, that was not supposed to happen. They were like, that isn't part of the show. So yeah, listen, I'm an extraordinary actress when things go wrong. They bought it. They thought it was, they thought that was the actual Elphaba's entrance.
No, that's what she said. She goes, the audience, first of all, she goes, I'm supposed to stand there and put my arms out and sort of introduce her. She comes by and something whizzed by me because she couldn't see the lights. And she said, all of a sudden, I was like, did Shoshana come out? And then she looked down there and she goes, I'll go down there and like, introduce myself to her. Like, and the awkward green girl, this was her entrance. And she said the whole audience bought it.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's no one you'd rather be in the trenches with than Megan Hilty. I swear to God, that woman will walk with you through fire on stage. She will be strong for you. When you're laughing to death, when you're crying, when you fall in a pit, you want to do battle with Megan Hilty, let me tell you.
Well, she was great. I just want to tell you, that's a chapter for your book, because I'm going to be one of the first people to read your book when you finally write it. But that's the chapter.
No,
just call it
bury that. Right.
The entrance. We'll call it, the entrance. One of the last times I saw you was when you were returning to Broadway as Jenna in Waitress. And I talked to you and Jeremy Jordan at Sardi's. That was my birthday that day. You both sang to me that day.
Oh, that was a fun day.
So that was such a good day at Sardi's. But you came back to Broadway as Jenna. Tell me what that role of Jenna in Waitress meant to you in that show.
Oh, man. Where do I begin? Like I said, it meant another shot at doing things differently. I remember one of my first matinee Saturdays after the weather started turning to spring. And it was a Saturday between shows. And I was like walking around Midtown to run some errands and grab dinner and stuff. And it's like you run into people and, there's, Derek Williams and I did Wicked together, and he was in Mormon. And it was like, oh, hey. And I was like, I'm home. I remember this. Like, there's a very distinct flavor to the lifestyle of being a Broadway performer. And I hadn't been in that lifestyle for 13, 14 years. So it was a blessing to be able to come back and live that again, to be back in the city, live in the city, to be in such a beautiful show with an incredible cast and creative team. I mean, those people, talk about Hairspray being family. Some of these people from Waitress will be my family forever. The score, the character, I think it was massive for me because I never would have seen myself or cast myself as Jenna. And so for someone to see me that way, for a couple someones to see me that way and give me the opportunity, it forced me to look at myself differently, or it forced me to reveal sides of myself that I don't often lead with. I'm usually cast as like the fierce, ferocious, strong, you know, woman. So it was different to be softer and gentler and more still and more vulnerable in a very different way. I mean, the people that I got to work with, the audiences, I mean, I can't even explain to you what it felt like to come onto a Broadway stage after all that time, to receive that kind of love from an audience, to sing She Used to Be Mine, which literally, like, I felt like I was singing my life story to a Broadway audience about my life as a performer in the like, it was insane. It was insane.
You got to share that experience with Jeremy Jordan. What was it like going into the show with Jeremy and experiencing the whole Waitress journey together?
Oh gosh. Well, we were very excited that we were going to get to do it together, because we'd never worked together properly, like on a show, but we had done some peripheral stuff, you know, one-off little events together. And we had had an instant connection, banter, and felt very quickly like brother and sister. And so, you know, when we knew we'd get to have like an extended chunk of time together, we were both very excited. And, you know, he started as just like a great, you know, pal and someone to joke around with, and very quickly became like an incredibly special, soulful, important person and friend in my life. And I think that the fact that I got to do it with him made the experience that much richer. And I think, you know, we had a special chemistry, and yeah, I think we brought something very different to the roles, separately and together. But he definitely was something that just deepened the whole experience and my character. I think he brought out colors in my Jenna that were very, very special.
Well, the two of you were beautiful together. You know, I have to tell you, I've spoken to many Jennas. This is such a prop-heavy show. You have to sing and bake a pie at the very same time. Now, what were rehearsals like, or were there mishaps with, you know, the flour or all this other stuff? Or when were you able to sort of like, you know, rub your head and rub your stomach at the same time, you know, put it all together?
I think those rehearsals were hardest for Andrew Fitch, our dance captain. He had the patience of Job. I was warned about it, and I remember being like, please, I was Elphaba and Wicked. I've done book bag rooms. Like, I'm going to be fine. I had no idea what I was in for. And I remember at some point, Sarah was like checking in one day, and she's like, how are you? How can I support you? Like, how's it going? And I'm like, you can tell me how I'm supposed to ever remember how to do this. And she was like, girl, it's just repetition, just over and over and over again. It's just repetition. And sure enough, it just becomes second nature. Yeah, there were mishaps all the time. There were forgotten products in my recipe. I got flour all over myself all the time. You know, the actual dough, moody, depending on like how long it had been refrigerated versus how long it had been out of the refrigerator. Yeah, there were a lot of different factors, but I've just, once it locked and gelled, I've never had more fun. Being able to have, I mean, it was essentially her choreography, you know, it was an extension of her, and such an important part. I can't imagine it being done any other way. It was such an important part of how she communicated and how she dealt with herself and her life. So it was a beautiful day when it all locked and became second nature, as it should have been from the start, because it's second nature to her. But it was trying. No question. I'm sure every Jenna has told you that. It was maddening at points.
Oh, every Jenna has told me that, especially Jessie. And we talked about the flour, because she used to sneeze and get allergic to it. So I was wondering, you tossed that flour into the air. How did you never sneeze or cough? Or did you?
usually it's going away from you, but I think she was actually allergic to it, right? So they had to get
Yeah.
gluten-free flour for her, and then they never went back. They just kept the gluten-free flour, which I'm not allergic to gluten, I don't think, but I don't know. I definitely had a flying plate, go into the. I mean, it's like
It's live theater.
orange juice splatter, like all kinds of things. I mean,
Yeah.
it was messy. It was messy.
Well, we have to get into your albums. Your first 3 independent solo albums all topped the iTunes R&B and Blue charts here in the US and the UK. And your most recent album, Spectrum, phenomenal, just so you know, debuted at #1 on the Billboard Jazz charts. How did that album come together for you?
Oh gosh, I think I'd taken a big chunk away from recording. I had been traveling and doing shows, um, and I was inspired by, honestly, a late night YouTube binge I happened upon When the Sun Comes Out, Barbara Streisand on the Ed Sullivan Show. And I remember 100 years ago when I was doing my sort of like my first album coupled with this sort of like Streisand tribute show that Billy Porter, genius mind, had sort of come up with for me and directed. And he had brought When the Sun Comes Out to the table, and it just didn't do anything for me. I was like, nah, there's stronger stuff. And when I revisited it, I was just like struck, because I thought, no one's doing this anymore. No one's just standing there with a glorious arrangement and a full orchestra and just with a great song and just delivering it. We're just not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that. No, I don't see that happening. I think Celine is like the closest thing to like really just standing and delivering. And I was like, someone should really do that. Someone should do that. And then I was like, oh God, is that someone? Do I have to do it? Ugh. So I brought the idea to my producer, and he ran with it. He's like, what about a big band album? And we toiled for months trying to figure out what music would be represented on the album. And I finally settled on, like, if I can find a way to cover all the parts of me and have them all be represented, we have a song from a musical in there. We have the, If Ever I Would Leave You from Camelot, right, is on there. We have a Beatles tune. We have Sinatra tune. We have original tunes. We have an Aretha tune. If I can cover all of my influences and all the many colors that make up, my crayon box, I think we can pull this off. And so that's why I called it Spectrum, because it just felt like the fullest representation, from representing, my early foundation in jazz, then to theater, then soul and rock, and and my original stuff. So it felt like it really encompassed everything. And it felt like it was time to do that. Of all the albums I had made already, it felt like this was the next step. And I was terrified making it. It was such a huge undertaking, and it was so expensive, and so many people, and man, I'm so glad I took that risk on myself. I'm so glad I took it, because I don't know, it just taught me to dream bigger. It taught me that bigger things are possible than just the comfort zone and playing it safe,
It's a sensational album.
Thank you.
And you also got to tour with this album, and one of these stops on this tour was the Apollo Theater. Now, I don't know if the whole evening is a blur for you, but I mean, magical, memorable. How incredible was that night at the Apollo for you, with this show, with that orchestra, your special guest stars? Tell me about that night.
Tomorrow it'll be 2 years, since that show. So that night, man, it is not a blur, because I have learned my lesson in my old age to and even Letticy, who was one of my special guests that night, she had said to me earlier that year when I did my album release in LA, she wasn't able to be there, but she texted me and she was like, stop and look around. Don't forget to look around. And I'll never forget that. I take it with me every time something special is happening. And I did that night. I was like, stop and look around. I took everything in that night. And it was a massive, massive night. It was really powerful for me walking out on that stage when I first entered to do the show, because the massive reception, the ovation, blew my mind. The second I started playing, that audience was wild. I was like, oh my God, whatever LA was, this is about to blow that out of the water. I couldn't have been prepared for that. But when I walked out, and I took it. I stood there and I took it, which is very hard for me to do, but I stood there and I took it and I let them shower me with love for a few moments. And in that moment, I processed like, oh, all of this is not about this album. This is about 20 years of, doing shows, doing concerts, collaborating with people, making videos, writing stuff, not knowing if anyone's paying attention, not knowing if any of this is resonating for people, if I'm doing what they want. Because, you put something out and then they're like, well, when are you coming back to Wicked? And you're like, I just put out a record. I don't know you know what I mean? You never feel like, let me rephrase that. You often wonder, am I doing this right? Am I doing it right? And that was the moment that I was like, whatever you're doing, keep going. Because this is the culmination of years of showing up. This is 20 years of a career. This is not just because of Spectrum. And also, like, this is New York. This is your, like, breeding ground. This is where it all started. These are the people. This is the community. It was one of the single greatest nights of my life, for sure.
Cynthia Erivo, I mean, look at the guest stars you had that night.
Knew that was coming next. Knew that was coming. Yes, my girl, my favorite, my favorite collaborating partner, for sure.
It was magical because I was there. So like I said, I didn't see you afterwards because there were so many incredible people there. And I said, I don't know where I'm going to find her, but I figured I'll catch up with her at some point. But that was such a magical night. I just want to tell you, so beautiful. And like I said, I think what a lot of people are learning during this pandemic is connecting and just living in the moment. I mean, you did it before this, but I think when we get out of this whole time, I think it's all going to be about eye-to-eye contact, not worrying about, I have to eat in an hour, I've got to do a show at 8:00 tonight or whatever. It's going to be, just connecting.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope you're right. I hope we remember.
Yeah, I think we're going to. What I want to ask you is, you do something with the lyric, you transcend, and I'm not sure if I'm using the right words to do this, but when you sing a word, you actually sing it as we feel it. Do you know that you do that?
Well, that's an incredible compliment. So thank you. Do I know that I do that? I know that I know that I am always just trying to tell the story.
Yeah.
I know that I learned a while back that that I don't need to hide behind a big voice. That the most important part is the communication. Otherwise, we would just sing on oozes. There would be no need for words. But there's a story to be told, and I am lucky enough to sing some of the greatest composers' work, from Jason Robert Brown to Mark Shaman to Sarah Bareilles, and Stephen Schwartz, obviously. I'm so lucky to have their music in my care. I feel like my greatest responsibility is to tell the story, and I don't know where that became so important to me, but perhaps the Sinatra and the Streisand of it all. I feel like they are incredible storytellers in that way as well. But I don't know. It feels important to me. It feels like the most important part of being a singer is, So I'm glad that you feel that way. Thank you.
Oh, I'm just one of many. I'm just one of millions of people. That's all. You recorded This Is Me from The Greatest Showman, and you donated all the proceeds to the Los Angeles LGBT Center. How did that come about? And what a beautiful gesture you did with this.
Well, thank you. It's so funny you said that, because I just saw a text from Travis Wall pop up on my phone. So
we should give him a shout out too, because he was in it too.
Yes, I did the video with him.
Yeah.
What happened was I was finishing Beaches, and I came back to LA, and it had been a whirlwind summer. I had done Beaches, but I kept flying back to Europe for concerts that I had already committed to. And it was just like, it was a crazy year. I was exhausted. I get back to LA. I'm like, I'm taking a month off. What happens the day I say I'm taking a month off? Benj Pasek and Justin Paul call, and they're like, hey, we're working on this movie. We need to cut this down. Well, it's not me. I'm taking a month off. P.S. Greatest Showman. I already laid a bunch of demos for that for some other composer. That thing's still kicking around? No. And they were like, please, 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 we need you to do this. I'm not doing it, guys. I'll give you 50 other singers. I'm not coming out of my house. I'm taking some time off. They asked a third time. And I was like, oh my God, okay, fine. I'll come to your stupid demo. I get to the studio. Justin starts playing the song and teaching it to me. And I'm like, you guys, this is epic. This song is incredible. Thanks. We record it. And I'm like, you guys, this song, whatever happens with this movie, like this song is a massive movement. This is an anthem. You guys. And they're like, oh, it had been quite a process for them. So I think they were just kind of like, well, we don't know. And I was like, just tell me when this doesn't go so that I can start singing this in my shows. Like this song, I wish I had written, this is like needs to go on my record. And sure enough, I feel like that song is incredible. And I wasn't the only one who thought so. I think that song sort of tipped the scales for them as far as like really making that project catch some momentum and move forward. And so I was lucky enough to lay that original demo. And I waited. I was just like, can I sing it yet? Can I sing it yet? Can I at least put it in my shows? Fox doesn't have to know. Like, let me just can I sing it? And I, of course, didn't because I wanted to be respectful. But I sat on that song for like 2 years. So the second that it came out and I felt that it was appropriate, I did a cover of it. And I had actually filmed a video already. I filmed a very simple video. And I was getting ready to put it out. And I ran into Travis somewhere, or he called or something. And he was like, I got to do I have to do we have to do it together. And I'm like, I kind of already filmed something. And he's like, can you just like, can I talk to you about my concept first? And then I just threw the other one out and we did this. And I'm so glad we did. And just because of what I feel the song is just an anthem for the underdog and, Travis's story and sort of what the video ended up being and making a statement for. To me, it just was a no-brainer that we would give the money to the center. So.
Well, you helped raise a lot of money for them. And the other thing you did is you made awareness. And I think that's one of the most important things, is making people aware through your art. We're almost out of time, but I have to ask you about Beaches. And I have to ask you about, first, Fanny Brice, Funny Girl.
The greatest role ever written. What do you want me to say? The greatest role ever written. And the biggest dream come true, because I wanted that role for so long. I wanted to play it since I'm a little girl. So like, of all the things that have happened that have been these unexpected gifts, that was a lifelong dream. So what can I say?
That had been amazing. Just, you can hear, I have goosebumps just you telling me what it was like when you were like, oh my God, I'm going to play Fanny Brice in Funny Girl.
It was a 2-week run in the middle of nowhere outside of Boston. But it was a great, great gift to be able to wrap my heart and my chords and my mind around that woman and that score. And I know people have so many opinions about that show. They think it's so deeply flawed. And to me, it is just it's so perfect with all its imperfections. I just relate. I just feel like I'm both with Cece and with Fanny, and they're very similar in a lot of ways, but both of them, I always just said, I don't know where she ends and I begin. Like, we are just, especially where I was in my life at that time, we are just walking parallel paths. It's crazy.
And the same thing with Cece and Beaches, right? I mean, what an incredible role. These are so perfect for you. What was that like, doing Beaches, the musical?
Same as Fanny, in a way of like, wow, this is so weird. I'm uncomfortably similar to this woman, you know, which was cool because it doesn't give you a big journey to leap from where you are to where you're trying to get every day on stage, right? But also like uncomfortable because you're like, I don't like that I feel so familiar with you. So, I always feel that roles come to you at a time where you need them in your life, to teach you something, to help you move through something, heal. I feel like we call them forth at the exact right moments. And those girls definitely came. They came at the right time, but great gifts. And so cool to be I'd never played Jewish girls before, so great to be able to be authentic and just like culturally really be able to bring all of my ancestors to the table. So
beautiful. Would you like to return to Broadway?
It's home. Did you get me? Did I freeze?
You did, but I heard it's home. I was like, oh, I know where she's going
Always.
with that. I love
I'm
it. You know,
always
that's the whole thing is everyone's Wi-Fi has to travel across America to sort of come together when we do these things live. It's amazing.
sorry, Rich. I
My,
apologize.
no, not at all. My final question for you is, what have you learned the most about yourself during this pandemic and this shutdown?
Ooh.
It's a big question.
It is. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about the importance of space and time, not filling every moment, every second, not having to do so much. I think we've all learned that that there is no real security. There is really no way to control or predict the future. There just isn't. That a lot of things are out of our control, and I think probably the biggest thing that I have learned and am learning is just to just really be grateful and appreciative and present, and not to be so incredibly hard on myself. That's a tough.
Oh, I know that's a tough one for you. But like I said, that's so beautiful because I've been asking everybody that, and people have really had the time to reflect on themselves and how they view life and what the important things are and the uncertainty and just living in the moment. I think that's really one of the most important things. Well, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for dropping by with us and sitting with me today at Broadway World. Broadway World loves you. You have a huge fan base here. The fans were freaking out when they realized that the Shoshana Bean was going to be sitting with me today live.
Oh, Richie, you're such a flatterer. I love you so much. Thank you for having me. I miss you.
Well, hopefully when I see you next, Broadway will be back bigger and better. I'll get to hug you in the flesh and everything else. And everybody watching, donate to the Actors Fund, to different organizations. Go out there and, every dollar counts, and use your voice this year for change. That's the biggest thing. Vote and use your voice and stay safe. Shoshana, I'll see you very soon, my love. Take care, everyone.
Love you.